USCHO.com. This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online at USCHO.com, featuring conversations with college hockey coaches and players and journalists who cover the sport.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight, being recorded on Tuesday, November 12th, 2019. I'm Ed Trefzger along with Jim Connelly. Off to a great start this season is Rochester Institute of Technology, better known as RIT.
And we are joined now by the head coach of RIT, and that is Wayne Wilson. Wayne, thanks for taking the time. Great start to the season for your program right now, 7-1-2.
Thanks for having me, and we'll take it while we can.
I guess you have to, but when you look at that as a start, and obviously there's some individuals that are making that happen, but did you have the expectations that this was one of those teams that maybe had some of that depth, had some of that talent that could put together a decent record for yourselves?
I think that's hard to say. I mean, I think every coach is optimistic at the start of the year. A lot of unknowns. You don't know how your freshmen are going to adapt. I think you always like your freshmen that are coming in, but you never know how they're going to start off and how they're going to adapt to the college game, and then how your returners are going to be. I think the thing I know now is that every game is going to be a tight game, so the margin for error is so small that you've got to enjoy the stretch that we're in right now, because you never know when it can flip. And it doesn't mean you're playing poorly, but you could be losing a lot of games by a goal or tying a lot of games. Or in our case right now, we're winning them by a goal or getting ties. And that's the difference in the standings. But the difference between teams that we're playing across the board, we've almost played every league actually this year so far. It's just so small.
One of the big success stories for your team, your goaltender, Logan Drackett, Hockey Commissioners Association Goaltender of the Month for October. We're looking at his stats. He's almost a goal against better than he was last year. His save percentage has improved from .911 to .943. Has anything changed for him, or is he just maybe starting to get comfortable with the pace of the college game?
I think it's probably a lot of different factors in that. When you look at how he started his college career, his first year to his second year, I think second year was what we were expecting. I think it's going to be obviously very difficult to keep up the numbers that he has right now. I think somewhere between where he's at and what he was at last year is probably where he'll settle in when it's all said and done. And there's nothing wrong with that. I thought he had a very good year last year. So we were happy with last year. We were expecting a bump in his play. But to say that he's going to be hovering around close to that 95 save percentage and under 2 would be a stretch. I think for any goalie, I think every coach would wish that, but I don't think that's realistic. So really happy with his start and the work that he's put in, and with our goalie coach, Len Perno's done with all our goalies. The other ones are chomping at the bit to get in some game action, but with Logan the way he's playing right now, it's very difficult to find room for them.
When I look at your stats, your leading scorer has 9 points in 10 games right now. There's nobody with gaudy stats, but then I look and I think it's 23 or 24 different players have at least recorded a point. That usually says depth in the offensive department, and that's usually a luxury for coaches. Do you feel like you have more depth than the average team would at this point in the year?
Speaking about our team, I think this is the most depth we've ever had, to be honest with you. We have a line that, is playing on the power play, and they may be getting a few more points. But even our last game, we put together a freshman line, and they've been very good for us as well. They're all, as I'm just looking here, they've all got 5 points in 10 games. The three of them, 5 points each for 15 points in 10 games. And, I think that bodes well for you. We've got a veteran group on defense. We've got 4 senior defensemen that are also contributing to, I think, Logan's save percentage and goals against average. So, yeah, there's a lot of things in place right now. But like I said, I think right now it's probably a little bit level of confidence because, we played an Air Force team that we thought was tremendous, and they hadn't won a game at that point of time, and I think we had one loss, but there's really no difference between teams. So confidence, health, just where you are in the season, how you're feeling, I think is a big part of it. But our depth is certainly a factor. When one line's not going, we can look towards other lines. So it's not feast or famine where we have one go-to line, and if they don't score, we're in trouble. I think we've got more lines than that.
We're talking with RIT head coach Wayne Wilson. One of the things that has been part of the early success for your team this year is how quickly your freshmen have adapted to the game. And you spoke after a game recently about how you expect maybe a couple of the guys to connect right away, but others take more time. What's different about this year's freshman class for you?
A good question. I wish I had the answer to help freshmen adapt as quick as possible, because you certainly need them involved. It could be just our senior leadership. I think as much as coaches try and help freshmen adapt, I think it's really the dynamics of your upperclassmen. So there's a lot that goes on in the locker room, away from the rink. Are they included in things? How are they treated? I think all those are big factors in helping them adjust. And it may be just an extension of our upperclassmen and our leadership group really helping them adapt to college. We've got one of them anyways with Rinaldi, whose brother's a senior at Union. So I think maybe he was able to pick up on some things. I'm sure his brother told him when he was going off to college what to expect and the difficulties that you go through as a new player. But I don't have any formula. They've all done a good job. Ryan Nicholson on defense, Colton Trumbaugh, who hasn't played a lot, but is certainly deserving to be in the lineup, has also contributed. So we're really happy with this particular group.
You mentioned the 4 senior defensemen, 3 of them among your captains. One of the things that has changed the most in the last few years in hockey, arguably, is the role of the defenseman, especially offensively. How much more skilled offensively, how much better skater, those kind of things, do you need a defenseman to be in today's game?
Well, I still think you need a mix, but I think even defensively, people thought of big defensemen, good reach, things like that was the secret to having good or defensemen play well defensively. But now you can take smaller guys that they can defend with their feet, and you don't maybe need the reach if you've got the feet to recover and challenge players and things like that. So that role has probably changed the most, I think, in hockey. I think the speed game's been there, but I think more so the speed of defensemen joining the rush, contributing offensively, but also defending with their feet and not necessarily with their size and reach.
Maybe the prototype for that for you is junior defenseman Dan Willett, not the biggest guy out there, but both a guy who sees the ice well and also a pretty good physical presence.
Yeah, I mean, he is for a smaller player. I think he does a really good job with that. And I think probably one of the keys to him is just how quickly he sees the ice and is able to move the puck. So when he goes back for a puck, he's able to kind of take a snapshot of how the forecheck is coming at him, and he's able to move the puck out of our zone. So he defends by getting the puck out of our zone as quick as possible, more so than physical confrontations where he's actually trying to take the puck off of someone. He doesn't shy away from that, but I think he plays defense with his head and his hands and his hockey IQ.
More with RIT head coach Wayne Wilson in a moment.
This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online.
Why don't we turn to Atlantic hockey a little bit? Last time I had a chance to talk at some length with League Commissioner Bob DiGregorio. He credited the entrance all those years ago now of RIT in Air Force and the immediate success of those programs as being kind of a catalyst to the rest of the league stepping up. And we've seen improvement both on the ice and around the ice. What's your overall take on where Atlantic hockey is now and where it's going?
Well, I would tend to agree with Bob without tooting our own horn, but I just thought that when ourselves and Air Force came into the league, I think we raised the bar in the league, not only from playing out of conference, but in conference. I just think the professionalisms of both athletic departments, the product on the ice, really forced everyone to raise their game, and that to the point where we're both just scrapping to try and stay near the top. It's so difficult. I think everyone has done such a great job on their campuses in particular, and I don't think there's any better example than AIC, where they were just a short while ago and where they are now. And that's just one, but I think Bentley had to make some decisions about, are we going to get a new rink, and the facilities that even just AIC and Sacred Heart are playing in. But the league is tough. I mean, we've found so far already that our league games have been tougher than our non-conference games. That's just how I feel. And maybe it's just the how much we know each other, and I guess our detail and pre-scouting and all that is a little bit greater when it becomes league points versus out of conference. But boy, it's just been really, really difficult to get wins and get any kind of points in league, and we'll take anything we can get.
Maybe an illustration of that is your opponent last weekend, Niagara, picked near the top of the league. They still don't have a win, and they played you pretty tough.
Yeah, they played us very tough. I mean, right to the end, 1-goal games going into the third, and I think that's something we can expect on any given weekend. And I feel that's the same way with all leagues. It's not just Atlantic hockey, but I think that's where our league, I don't know if there's much difference between ourselves and Air Force as far as, what type of player and things we were getting, call it 10 years ago. But I think our bottom has just really come up and has squeezed everyone at the top of the standings. And that's also been a factor when you look at how they've done out of conference as well. Everyone's a much tougher to play against out of conference as well. So it's been good and healthy, and Niagara is going to be just fine. It's just, they got to get their footing here, and when they do, watch out, because they've got good players on their team.
One of the things that Atlantic hockey adopted over the summer was 3-on-3 overtime after a 5-on-5 and then the shootout. And you got to participate with your team in a couple of those now, although never 3-on-3. How's that been so far? Is something to prepare for, and how do you approach that? And then secondly, what would you like to see down the road as that might be adopted across all 6 leagues?
Yeah, I've liked it so far. I would be a little bit more interested in seeing the 3-on-3. Both times we started with a power play 4-on-3 and then never received a whistle. Niagara ended up scoring with, I think, 30 seconds left. That's when we got our first whistle in that 5-minute overtime. And the time before that, there was no whistle in the 5 minutes. So we've played 4-on-4. But what I'm seeing right now, and what I'm seeing really on TV, is a lot more cautious. It's not as wide open as what I guess I thought initially I'd see. And when we've practiced it in practice, it hasn't been that wide open either. It's been very cautious. And for doing that in practice, that's a little unusual. For me down the road, I would continue with, I'd like to see this. I would eliminate the shootout piece of it, and I would eliminate the 5-minute of 5-on-5 personally. That's my personal opinion. I would go after 60 minutes if it's still tied. I don't know why we're going through the ritual of playing another 5 minutes to see if it's still tied. I'd like to see it go right to 3-on-3 for 10 minutes. Ice conditions is also a part of that. I mean, after you've played a 20-minute third period, to go 5 minutes of 5-on-5, 5 minutes of 3-on-3, and then go to a shootout, that's, the ice isn't in the best of shape at that point. So they say 3-3 ends it. I'd like to see that instead of 5 minutes, extend it maybe to 10 minutes and see what happens. And if it's tied, maybe it's deserving to be of a tie. I mean, NFL games, everyone says there's no tie in none of the sports. NFL can end in a tie. You don't see it happen often, but it does. I could live with that.
One other thing that continues to be worked on at the NCAA level is video review. Is that working? And if it's not, what should be the role of video review in college hockey?
I don't know. For me, I would like to see the too many men on the ice and the offside be eliminated from review altogether. And people say, don't you want to get it right? But why we pick out what would be a minor penalty for too many men on the ice as the thing we're going to review and not hooking, holding, interference, or anything else, why we picked out too many men. I think I know why. It happened in an NCAA game where there's too many men on the ice and a goal was scored. So we overreacted like I think we do in society with everything and said, okay, we're going to review that. Offside, the same thing. It's just slowing down the game. We're taking away goals. We're never challenging it to see if there should be a goal. I don't like it. But let's just keep it to goals and I just too many stoppages. I don't know. The majors, you can only add to it. You can't take away something that was wrong, after the game. So I'm not even sure where I stand with that. I just don't think it's right. And reflecting back, and I know we chatted about it briefly, the kid Cooley for Niagara scores an unbelievable overtime goal, and he's not even going to get credit for it. But if a fight broke out, boy, those guys would be suspended and everything else. But a fight counts in the 3-on-3, but a goal doesn't. Our rules are backwards, I think, at times, and we're overthinking things. And I don't know why you can't take away a DQ when maybe it was a mistake in a game. And when I'm talking about even after the game is played, like it was our bad. You served the 5 minute, but he's not going to sit out the next game. It was a bad call.
A common sense, not always the easiest. We're talking with Wayne Wilson from RIT. Before we let you go, Wayne, a couple more questions. One, you've talked about how many close games your team has been in. Does that help prepare you for maybe the big games down the stretch, that if you're in a situation, a postseason game with a 1-goal lead, maybe that you can draw on some of the experience from October and November and say, hey, we were in these games. We know we can hold these leads. We know that this is something. And even if you're in a comeback situation, we've maybe come back a couple of times. Does that help you as you get toward the postseason?
I think everyone's in that situation. So I think everyone is a little bit calmer in those type of situations now. You're always hoping for that one blowout so you can just relax a little bit in a game as a coach and probably as a player too. But I think all that. But I think what does happen where you draw upon is if you can win those close games, it does give you a sense of confidence. If you can score a 6-on-5 goal when you pull your goalie, it gives you confidence the next time in it. Same thing if you're killing 6-on-5. So, we with Niagara at the end, they pulled their goalie. The fact that we killed it, we try and draw on that experience, and we'll draw on that experience later on when we're in that situation again. So I think it builds confidence and things like that. But I think every league and every team now is getting used to knowing that, this is going to be a tight game, whether it's first versus last or whether it's first versus second. You just your experiences just, I guess, help you grow as a team and mature and you're more ready for those situations, hopefully through successful situations.
Lastly, your team will host Sacred Heart twice this weekend, Friday, Saturday series. What are your thoughts on this team? This is a Sacred Heart team that I've seen a couple of times over the last few years, and it does feel like they continually improve to be now at this point being one of the more talented offensive teams in the nation.
Yeah, without a question. I think CJ and his staff have done a great job at Sacred Heart. I think they're a really good team, and unfortunately for us, the last couple of years we've had to play them twice, or when I say twice, 2 series, so 4 games during the regular season, And then we've had to play them in the playoffs. So we've seen them as many as 7 times in 1 year. So it's a team that we know all too well. And boy, they can give you fits. I mean, they're well coached, very talented team. And I think they've shown a lot of people outside of the conference that. And so we've got our hands full, and I'm sure they're saying the same thing about us. And it's going to be a great series, just as I thought playing Niagara was. I mean, they beat us out in the semifinals last year. So these teams that you play more than twice a year and you end up playing 4 times, you really get to know them a little bit more. And then if you play them in the playoffs, particularly in that best of 3 versus the single game elimination, you just seem to know their tendency. You know them too well, and it's a lot of strategy goes involved, and they're tough, hard-nosed series.
Well, it's a great start for RIT. 7 wins, 1 loss, 2 ties, the best since turning a Division I team. And Wayne Wilson, it's been great to chat with you, catch up with you. We hopefully can do it again later in the season as your team hopefully has continued success. But thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
That's RIT head coach Wayne Wilson. He's been a big part of the transition of that program from Division III to Division I, which is 15 years ago now. But the success that program has had is envied by other teams in Atlantic hockey.
Well, I think, you have to look at him as kind of the pioneer to have the vision that you could move to Division I as he did. And, when you make that move, some schools make that move just thinking, hey, let's go Division I. Boy, Division I. There's this kind of concept in the head that as soon as you get to Division I, it's going to be, Disney World all the time. And there's some difficulties. There's a lot of growing pains. You have to have the budget to do it. But then if you don't have success, even in the first 10 years, then you're questioning, boy, did we do the right thing? So RIT, they almost had immediate success. They fit into Atlantic hockey very well. They got to the NCAA tournament, obviously getting to a Frozen Four shortly thereafter didn't hurt at all. And those are the steps that make the decision to make such a large jump. People forget how big of a jump it is to go from Division III, which is a non-scholarship situation, to Division I. RIT found the way to do it and has done it very well ever since.
It's the 10th anniversary of that Frozen Four this season. They're going to have a reunion about that in January. And just to give you some perspective, one of the players on that team, Chris Tanev, played in the Stanley Cup playoffs the following season in 2011 and has had a pretty long and successful NHL career since.
You go back to that 2010 Frozen Four, and it was obviously an exciting event to be played in a football stadium, so people kind of remember that the most out of that. But RIT here, they were a team that people didn't even really have them on their radar screen whatsoever. They're able to get to a Frozen Four. It's still kind of the benchmark, the watershed moment for Atlantic hockey. And since then, so many great things have happened for a team like RIT and the entire league like Atlantic hockey. So a lot of success along the road, and that's always something that can be celebrated.
This is one of 3 podcasts we do every week. Weekend review early in the week, USCHO Spotlight, this podcast, and also USCHO Game of the Week. Check them all out at uscho.com/podcasts. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and we'll catch you next time.
This has been the USCHO Spotlight, a production of U.S. College Hockey Online. Visit uscho.com/podcasts to listen or subscribe.